An abandoned building on the outskirts of the village with broken windows and peeling plaster stood like a witness to bygone times. Husky lay by his wall on the cold ground covered with broken bricks. His fur, once silvery white, was matted into dirty clumps, and his blue eyes, once bright, were faded from hunger and loneliness. He was old, his paws were shaking, his pads were worn down, and one of his teeth was broken, but he still reached out with his paw to everyone who passed by. He didn't bark or whine, he just held out his paw as if he was begging. Me, I'm still here. For 3 days Husky lay against the wall without getting up. Passers-by hurried past. Some looked away, some cast a fleeting glance out of pity, but no one stopped. Cars sped along the road, raising dust that settled on his fur, and he kept on, reaching out. His movement became weaker with each passing hour. His name was Sever, although no one in the village knew this. The collar had long since worn out, the tag was lost, and the owner, an old man who once petted him and called him my boy, died a year ago. The North was left alone, and now his world had narrowed to this wall, to this hope that someone would notice. Anna Semyonovna, a former teacher who is over 70, saw the dog for the first time when returning from the store. Her steps were slow, her back was hunched, and the bag of bread and milk weighed down her arm. Noticed movement near the wall. Weak, almost imperceptible. The North extended its paw. His eyes, dull but alive, met hers. Anna froze, feeling something squeezing her chest. She knew this pain. The pain of loneliness when no one is waiting for you, when the world passes you by. Her daughter lived in the city, called once a month, and the grandchildren forgot the way to their grandmother's house. The North was her mirror, and it was frightening. Poor thing, Anna whispered, lowering her bag to the ground. Who left you? She stepped closer, but the North did not move. Only his paw trembled again as if asking, "Don't go." Anna sat down. Her knees cracked and she looked at the dog. His fur was dirty, his ribs were sticking out, and his breathing was so weak that she was afraid he would not live until the evening. She extended her hand, but he didn't pull away, he just looked. And in his gaze there was not just a plea, there was faith. A faith that tore her heart apart. Anna took a piece of bread out of her bag and put it next to her. Sever sniffed, but did not move. His paw reached out to her again, and Anna felt tears sting her eyes. She remembered her cat, who died 5 years ago, and how she cried, hugging his empty bed. Then she swore that she would never take the animal again. It hurts too much to lose. But looking to the North, she could not leave. His gesture, his stubbornness, his faith in people. Despite everything, something deep in her soul was touched. She returned home. But the image of the dog did not leave her. It was quiet in her small apartment, which smelled of old books and lavender. Anna sat at the table, looking at the empty mug, and thought about the North. She knew he couldn't survive without help. Hunger, cold, loneliness. They were killing him slowly but surely. Remembered how her husband, leaving, said, "Anya, don't close your heart. It's big." Now that heart ached for the dog she barely knew. Next day Anna returned to the building. North was even weaker there than yesterday. His paw barely moved, but he still reached out to the passers-by who did not notice him. Anna brought a bowl of water and some chicken that she had cooked in the morning. She placed the bowl nearby, but the dog only licked the water and lay down again. His eyes closed. She dropped to her knees, ignoring the dirt, and touched his muzzle. "You shouldn't die like this, Prochyza," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "You deserve more." She knew that she couldn't cope alone. North was too weak to walk, and she didn't have the strength to carry him. Anna remembered her neighbor Maria, a woman her age who once worked in a veterinary clinic as a nurse. Maria was straightforward but kind, and Anna decided to ask her for help. Returned home, dialed the number, and her voice trembled as she told about the dog. "Masha, he's dying. I can't stand watching him reach out to people as they pass by. Help me, I ask." Maria arrived an hour later. Her old bicycle creaked on the roadblocks. Seeing the North, Jana frowned. "Oh my God, Anya. He's on the edge, but you're right. You can't abandon him." She examined the dog. Her hands moved confidently, despite the years. "He is old, exhausted, but his heart still beats. If we don't get him now, he won't live to see tomorrow." Anna nodded, her tears flowing without stopping. He looked at the North, whose paw trembled again, as if he sensed their presence. "We'll take you, baby," she whispered. "Just hold on." Maria called her friend Olga, who worked as a volunteer at a local shelter. Olga promised to come with a carrier and a basic first aid kit. Anna sat next to North while they waited. Her hand rested on his fur. She talked to him, telling him about her husband, how he loved dogs, how they dreamed of getting a dog, but life turned out differently. "You remind me of him," she said quietly. "He didn't give up either." Sever looked at her, and a shadow of trust flickered in his eyes. When Olga arrived, Anna felt her heart pounding. Olga, a woman of about 60, with a tired but kind face, sat down next to the dog. "How beautiful he is," she said, looking quietly to the North. Even now she took blankets out of her bag and carefully covered the dog, trying not to disturb him. "Anya, you did the main thing, you saw him. Now, we will try to save him." Anna nodded, her throat tightening. She knew that this was only the beginning, but for the first time in 3 days, hope lit up in her chest. Hope that Sever, this dog with a broken heart, could still find a home. Twilight enveloped the village, and the abandoned building where Sever lay seemed even more gloomy under the gray sky. The husky, whose silver-white fur was covered in dirt, lay on the cold ground. His paw was shaking, but still reached out to the rare passers-by. His blue eyes, faded from hunger and pain, kept a weak spark of faith. Anna Semyonovna sat nearby, her hands shaking, as she stroked his muzzle, whispering words of comfort. Maria, her neighbor, stood a little further away, clutching the phone on which she had just spoken with Olga, a volunteer. Shelter. Olga pulled up in an old van. Her face was tired but determined. She covered Sever with a blanket, trying to keep his exhausted body warm. Anna looked at the dog, whose breathing was weak, almost inaudible, and felt her heart squeeze. The moment Sever licked the water was their small hope, but she knew he was on the edge. Hunger, cold, and loneliness were eating away at him, and without immediate help he would not survive the night. "We have to take him." "Olga," Anna said, Her voice trembled with tears. He reaches out to people despite everything. He deserved a chance. Olga nodded, her eyes shining. I can see, Anya, he is a fighter, but we need to act quickly. Maria, whose experience as a nurse in a public health clinic was still with her, sat down next to her, examining Severo. He is old, exhausted, his paws are worn down to the point of bleeding. But his heart he's fighting, and that's the main thing. If we give him warmth and food, he might break free. Anna squeezed Maria's hand. Her eyes were full of gratitude. She remembered how Sever had pawed him, even when his strength was leaving him. And that stubbornness, faith in people was tearing her soul apart. She couldn't let him die here, by the wall, where no one but her had stopped. Olga took the carrier out of the van, leaving the door open, and put a blanket inside, soaked in the smell of the food she had brought. Wet food, the aroma of which was so strong that even Sever's nose twitched. Anna continued to talk to him. Her voice was soft but firm. You're not alone, baby. We're here. Not leaving. She remembered how her husband used to sing old songs to calm their cat, and she began to quietly hum a melody she had loved in her youth, simple, about home and warmth. Sever raised his head, his ears twitched, and he looked at Anna. Not at the road where people were passing, but at her. It was a small step, but for Anna it meant everything. Maria, noticing it, smiled. That's it, Anya. He hears you. He wants to live. They carefully transferred Sever to the carrier, trying not to disturb him. His little body was light, almost weightless, and Anna felt the tears running down her cheeks. Olga closed the door and carried the carrier to the van, and Anna and Maria walked next to him, not taking their eyes off the dog. Let's go to the shelter, Olga said. There I can give him an four. But, Anya, be ready. He is very weak. Anna nodded, her throat tightening. She knew that the fight was just beginning, but she was ready for the north. The road to the shelter was short, but every pothole in the road echoed in Anna's heart. She sat next to the carrier, whispering to the north words that were not only for him, but also for herself. You reminded me that I am still alive, she said quietly. I won't let you go. Maria, sitting in front, turned around. Anya, you do more than anyone could. He feels it. Anna smiled weakly, but her thoughts were with the dog. She remembered his paw reaching out to the people and swore that she would be the one to answer his prayer. At the shelter they were greeted by noise, barking dogs, the rustling of cages, and the voices of volunteers. But in the small room where Olga had arranged a place for the north, it was quiet. She laid him on a soft mat and quickly set up an four. Her movements were precise despite her fatigue. He's dehydrated, exhausted, but his heart is strong, she said, frowning. The night will be decisive. Anna sat nearby. Her hand rested on the wool of the north. She looked at his eyes, which were now half closed, but a shadow of trust flickered in them. He was with her, and it was a miracle. But their hopes were darkened by an unexpected turn of events. Maria, having gone out to talk to her neighbors, returned with disturbing news. Anya, people say that this dog belonged to old man Ivan, who died a year ago. His son Sergei lives in the city. Someone saw him come to the village the other day. If he finds out that the dog is alive, he can claim. Anna froze. Her heart began to pound. She remembered how he came to the people, but no one, not even this Sergei, came for him. He threw it to Masha. She said quietly but firmly. Sever waited by the wall, and his son didn't even look. He won't take it. Maria nodded, but her look was serious. We must be prepared. If he comes, we'll need proof that the dog was abandoned. Anna looked at the north, whose paw, even in his half-sleep, moved weakly, as if it was still reaching out to her. She remembered the indifference of passers-by, the loneliness of the dog, his faith in spite of everything, and her anger at the injustice of the world. Flared up. He's not a thing, she whispered. He's family. Olga, hearing this, put her hand on her shoulder. Anya, you're right, but think about what you want for him. A shelter is no place for a dog like that. He needs a home. These words touched Anna deeper than she expected. She remembered her empty house, the silence that weighed on her every evening, and suddenly she realized that the North was not only a duty, but also an opportunity to open your heart again. The night in the shelter dragged on slowly. Anna refused to leave, despite the persuasion of Maria and Olga. She sat by the northern bedding, humming the same tune. Her voice was hoarse, but full of love. Olga came in to check the four, and closer to the morning a weak smile lit up her face. He's holding up, Anya. Breathing is more even. You give him strength. Anna looked at the north, whose eyes had opened slightly, and for the first time in days his gaze was not empty. He licked her hand weakly, and she laughed through her tears. You're with me, baby, she whispered. But Sergei's threat still hung over them. Anna knew that the fight for the North was not over. She felt that this dog, who reached out to everyone, had chosen her, and she could not let him down. On painted the sky above the shelter a soft pink, but the small room where the North lay was silent. A thin tube extended to his paw, and his blue eyes now followed Anna Semyonovna a little more clearly. She sat next to me. Her hands rested on the bars of the cage, humming the same melody that had helped him out of the abandoned building. Her voice, hoarse with fatigue, was full of love. And the North, as if sensing this, weakly moved its tail. Anna smiled through her tears, and her heart beat in unison with his. Olga, a shelter volunteer, entered the room, checking the four. He's holding up, Anya, she said quietly. The night was hard, but he survived it. You gave him strength. Anna nodded, her throat tightening. Remembered how Sever reached out with his paw to every passerby, despite his hunger and pain, and how his gaze, full of faith, stopped her at that wall. He wasn't just a dog, he was her mirror, and her chance to reopen the heart she'd closed off after her losses. It wasn't me, Alya, she whispered. It's him, his faith. Maria, Anna's neighbor, stood at the door. Her face was serious. The threat of Sergei, the son of the former master of the North, still hung over them. Maria learned from neighbors that Sergei had come to the village to sell his father's house, and rumors about the discovery reached him. He may come today, Anya, Maria said. He says the dog is his property, but I saw him. He did. And even know Sever's name. Anna clenched her fists, and her anger at the injustice flared. He threw it to Masha. Sever waited by the wall, but Sergei did not look. He won't
Take it.
Olga nodded, her voice
Firm.
We have witnesses, Anya.
The
Neighbors will confirm that the dog was abandoned. But you need to decide what will happen to him.
next.
These words touched Anna deeper than she expected. She looked at the North, whose paw, even in weakness, moved weakly, as if reaching out to her. The thought of taking him home scared her. Her apartment was small, her pension was modest, and her heart was afraid of new
pain.
But, looking at the dog, she remembered her husband's words. Anya, don't close your heart.
The
North, with its stubborn faith, was her chance to start over. I'll think about it, she said quietly, but there was determination in her voice. Sergei came to the shelter during the day. His expensive jacket and sharp movements looked out of place among the cages and noise of the dogs.
He
Entered the room where the North lay, and his gaze was cold. This is my father's dog, he said without looking at Anna. I'm taking him. I don't want him wandering the streets. His words sounded false, like a memorized speech. Anna stood up, her heart pounding, but her voice was, You weren't looking for him, Sergei.
He
Was lying against the wall, reaching out to people, and you did. And even know he was alive. Why do you need him now? Sergei frowned, his tone becoming harsher. He is part of the inheritance. Don't have to explain. Maria stepped forward. Her eyes sparkled. Inheritance? You sold your father's house without remembering the dog.
The
Thing is more northern. He is a family. Olga added. Neighbors saw him living on the street after Ivan's death. You didn't care about him. We have evidence. Sergei opened his mouth to object, but fell silent when he saw how Sever, hearing the voices, weakly raised his head and looked at Anna. His paw trembled as it reached out to her, and the gesture, full of trust, was louder than any words. Anna stepped closer to Sergei, and her gaze was full of pain and truth. You didn't love him, Sergei, but I do, and I won't let you take him away to be your next deal. Her words hung in the air, and Sergei clenched his jaw. A shadow flickered in his eyes. Not remorse, but an admission of defeat. Do what you want, he muttered and left, slamming the door. Anna exhaled, her hands shaking. Maria hugged her. You were amazing, Anya.
Olga
Smiled. The North has chosen you.
Anna
Looked at the dog, who was now lying more calmly. His eyes were clearer.
He
Opened the cage and stroked him carefully. You are safe, baby, she whispered. At that moment, she made a decision. North couldn't stay in the shelter, among the noise and cages. He deserved a home, where he would be loved the same way his old owner had loved him. She talked to Olga and Maria, and they supported her. Are you ready, Anya? Olga said. He was waiting for you by that wall. Anna smiled, feeling how her loneliness, which was her shadow, was retreating. I'm ready, she answered. A week later, North had grown, so strong that Olga allowed her to take him. His fur, cleaned of dirt, was shiny again, and his eyes, although faded, sparkled with new life. Anna brought him to her small apartment, where a bowl, a soft bed and an old blanket that she had taken to the shelter were already waiting. North, still weak, but with a clear look, wagged his tail for the first time. When Anna stroked him, he licked her hand, and she laughed. Her tears were happy. Good, welcome home, North, she said. Sometimes Sever would lie down by the door, his paw reaching out towards it, as if he still remembered those who passed by. But now it was not a gesture of supplication. It was a greeting, full of trust. Anna knew that his heart remembered the old master, but now there was room in it for her too. She sat next to him, stroking him, and felt her house fill with a warmth that had not been there for years. Anna knew that Ivan, the former master of the North, was looking down on them, and knew that his love lived in this husky who had become her family. The abandoned building was left behind, but the light of the North, the light of their new life, shone brighter than ever. Autumn came to the village quietly, covering the streets with yellow leaves and a cool wind. Anna Semyonovna's small apartment smelled of freshly cooked soup and lavender, and the North lay on the soft couch by the window. His silvery white fur, now clean and shiny, shone softly in the morning light, and his blue eyes, still faded but full of life, watched Anna. He was weak, but he became stronger every day. His steps sounded more confident on the wooden floor. Sometimes he would reach out his paw to her, no longer begging, but greeting her. And this gesture filled Anna's heart with warmth that she had not known for years. Anna sat at the table holding a cup of tea. Her gaze wandered around the room. He remembered finding Severo at the abandoned building, how his paw, trembling with weakness, reached out to everyone who passed by. She didn't know then that this dog would change her life, but now, looking at him, she understood that he had saved her just as she had saved him. Her loneliness, which had been her shadow since the death of her husband and the departure of her daughter, receded. The North became her family. Its meaning, its reminder that a heart, even a broken one, can love again. But this new life was not without shadows. Anna often thought about the past of the North, about old man Ivan, his former owner, whose love still lived in this husky. She knew that Ivan died alone, like many in the village, and his son Sergei did not value either his father or the dog. The conflict with Sergei, when he tried to take the North, still echoed with pain. Anna remembered his cold gaze, his words about the inheritance, and her anger at the injustice of the world flared up again. But now she looked north and felt that she had won not only for him, but for herself. She gave the dog a home, and he gave her hope. One morning, when Anna was walking the North, they passed by an abandoned building where she found him. Sever stopped, his paw reaching towards the wall, as if he was remembering those days. Anna sat down next to him, her hand touching his fur. "Do you remember, baby?" she whispered. "But now you're home." He looked at the building, its peeling walls, and suddenly felt her thoughts drifting to her own past. She remembered how she and her husband dreamed of having a dog. As he said, "Anya, the dog is the soul of the house." Life had turned out differently, but now, with the North, she felt like she was fulfilling that dream. Even years later, this moment was interrupted by the voice of Aunt Clava's neighbor, an elderly woman who knew everyone in the village. "Anya, this is Ivan's dog, right?" she asked. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I heard you saved him." Anna nodded, her heart sank. Aunt Clava continued, "Ivan loved him like a son. When he died, the dog disappeared. I thought he didn't survive. And you did a miracle." Anna smiled, but her thoughts were spinning. She knew the North was more than just a dog. He was a connection with those who left, with those who loved. Aunt Clava suddenly added, "You know, Anya, in the village they say that Ivan's house wasn't just sold. Sergei wanted to demolish it, but people are against it. They want to make something like a memorial garden there for Ivan and other old people who have passed away. Maybe you and Sever can help." Anna froze. Her heart began to pound. The garden of remembrance. It was so right, so necessary. She looked at the North, whose paw now lay on her knee, and felt that this was not just an idea, but a duty, a debt to Ivan, to the North, to all who left light in this world. Anna began talking to her neighbors, collecting their voices. She, Maria, and Olga, who became her support in saving the North, organized a meeting in the village club. Anna was nervous. Her hands were shaking as she stood in front of people. But the North, sitting next to her, looked at her with such faith that she found strength in herself. "This dog," she said, her voice shaking, reaching out to everyone even when no one stopped. "He reminded me that we must not forget those who were with us. Ivan loved him, and we can preserve their memory." Her words, simple but sincere, touched everyone. The neighbors nodded, some wiped away tears, and Aunt Clava was the first to raise her hand. "I'm for the garden, for Ivan's sake." But their plans ran into an obstacle. Sergei, having learned about the collection, sent a letter through a lawyer, demanding that the plot remain his property. He didn't mention the North, but his threat was clear. He didn't want to lose control. Anna, reading the letter, felt her anger mixed with fatigue. She remembered how Sergei had looked at the North as if it were an object, and her determination grew stronger. "He won't stop us," she told Maria and Olga. "The North deserves to have the memory of its master live on." Olga suggested collecting signatures and contacting the village administration, and Maria contacted a local lawyer, who agreed to help for free. While they were fighting for the garden, the North grew stronger. He started running around the yard. His bark, hoarse but joyful, was heard in the mornings. Anna noticed how he reached out with his paw to the neighbors who came to support her. And it was no longer a plea, it was trust, love. She sat with him in the evenings, talking about her husband, about her daughter, who promised to come but did not. "You taught me, North," she whispered. "Taught me that loneliness is not the end, it is the beginning." And the dog, as if understanding, laid his muzzle on her knees. His eyes were shining. Anna's thoughts about life became her support. She thought about how often people passed by those who needed help, how she herself was afraid to open her heart after losses. The North showed her that faith, even the most fragile, can change everything. He was not just a dog, he was a lesson that love never dies, but lives on in those who continue to move forward. Anna felt that her life, which she considered complete, was just beginning. And this was her victory. A month later, their efforts were crowned with success. The village administration, under pressure from the signatures and stories of neighbors, bought the plot from Sergei, who, faced with public protest, retreated. Ivan's house was turned into a small garden with apple trees and benches, and in the center they put a plaque in memory of Ivan and all who loved him. At the opening, Anna held the North on a leash. His paw reached out to people, but now it was a gesture of joy. The neighbors stroked him, the children laughed, and Aunt Clava whispered, "You did more than a garden, Anya. You gave us back our hearts.
Anna stood
By the apple tree, looking at the north, which lay at her feet. She knew that his paw would always reach out to people, not asking, but giving. And she knew that her heart, like his, was now open to life. An abandoned building, loneliness, pain, everything is left behind. And ahead was the light that they carried together with the north.